What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shooky from Shook Earth Media, and today I thought, since now that The Walking Dead is finally over, we could do a full ranking of all the seasons. Now, I've done this before, so we're doing it a little different. We're doing a tier list, and we got not just the seasons from the main show, but also the spin-offs. So it's going to be a big video covering a lot of Walking Dead stuff. So obviously we're in the off season until some of the spin-offs come out. So I'm going to do some more fun Walking Dead videos like this every once in a while, and I'm going to find other topics to talk to you guys about. So if you're interested in more movie reviews and TV reviews and stuff like that, definitely hit the sub button, and I hope to hear your opinions and would love to see your tier list down below. But with that, let's just jump right into it. So I thought it might be fun to kind of start from the bottom up and make our way to the S tier, the best of the best. So we're going to start with the F tier, the worst seasons ever. Now, I don't think any seasons from the main series qualify as F tier. I'm sure other people disagree with that, but most fans would probably agree. However, I think most of us can be united by our dislike of this show here. I did not care for this show at all, and there's like one interesting episode, the first episode, where we're introduced to the CRM, and then the rest of it, we're wandering in the woods with these kids. We've seen these plot lines a million times. It's even less interesting this time because we don't care about any of the characters. Everything's very repetitive, quality, not good. So, you know what? I have to say F tier with you, where you belong. World Beyond is in the F tier. Okay, what's next? Let me think. I think we have to give Fear Season 7 the F tier. I think Fear Season 7 was by far the worst season they ever did. I like the idea of a nuclear apocalypse in the zombie apocalypse. Great concept. It's a very high concept show, so they got some. It pitches well. It sounds good on paper, but then you actually watch the motherfucker, and the shit does not. The motivations are so confusing. Everything's coincidental. It's like it's written by children, bro. Like they don't know where the food. We don't have food for the baby. We're in the submarine. We don't have food for the baby. Let's go out and look for something else to help. And then when we give up on that, we're gonna come back exactly where we started. And you know what? It turns out there's a bunch of baby food under the fucking floorboards. I'm not kidding. That happens on the show. And Strand is the dumbest villain they've ever done. I love Strand. He's one of my favorite Fear the Walking Dead characters. They made him look so dumb in this. All of his plans, he's like, no, I'm gonna kill my second in command, the guy who's most loyal to me, doesn't question a single thing that I do. I'm gonna throw him off the building, and instead I'm gonna trust John Dory Sr., who just told me that he lied to me this entire episode. So it's the dumbest season, and Alicia gets bit in the dumbest way possible. So you guys can check out my past videos if you want to elaborate further on my thoughts on Fear Season 7. So is that all? I think that's all for the F tier. Those are the worst seasons, and hopefully we don't have to add any more seasons to the F tier, but I'm waiting on that Fear Season 8, you know what I mean? But next we got the E tier. I'm thinking what's next on the E tier. It's gotta be, oh, you know what? Actually, now I think about it, there's definitely another F tier. And I think you guys can already predict what it is. Fear Season 5, okay? This was the most boring season, and it's also coupled with being the silliest season. They're like, okay, let's have a more lighthearted Walking Dead. Again, sounds good on paper. I'm fine with having a bit more humor in there, but they make it so silly and over the top, coupled with the biggest coincidence of all Fear the Walking Dead is Dwight just randomly running into Morgan. So they both make the same journey from Virginia and just happen to run into each other. I don't know if you guys understand how big this country is. That's a lot of land, you know what I'm saying? It's a big coincidence. And then the whole season's about these kids, saving these kids, and it's just like, they have a good concept with the nuclear radiation and the zombies that are infected by it, but they completely forget about that in the season with the nuclear apocalypse, and all of a sudden getting zombie blood on them is no big deal at season 7. So in retrospect, it looks even dumber. So you guys already know that it's going in the F tier. I can't believe I forgot about Sphere season 5. It's got to go F tier. Now in the E tier, I gotta give World Beyond season 2. I think is the sole winner of the E tier. Maybe we'll add more as we go. I'm gonna have to think about it, but I like this season more than season 1, and we got to see a little bit more of the big story. With World Beyond, you know what, the story of the CRM, getting to see inside them, what they're up to, what their plans are, there was some good stuff there. And from the big perspective of the show, I like some of the things going on there. That being said, there's a lot of silliness to it. Like, we're 10 years into the apocalypse, working with scientists that are very well equipped and have power and all the resources they can need, and yet they don't know what causes zombies yet. Like, that's what? They don't know if it's a virus or something. How do you not know? Like, it doesn't even make sense. So it's E tier, but there were a few good, like, B-rated episodes toward the end, because Jadis comes in towards the end and actually starts to get kind of interesting and decent. There's a couple of good episodes I actually really enjoy. One science lady gets eaten in a zombie experiment. It's rather brutal. So, Jadis, I think, gets it up a tier, but half that season is just as bad as season 1. So it can't go any higher than E tier. Maybe D tier if I'm feeling really generous, but man, that was a slog to get through. So D tier, what goes in the D tier? I don't know if we have anything in the D tier. I don't know. I'm tempted to put maybe season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead in the D tier. Now, I think I like this season a bit more than a lot of fans. A lot of fans hate this season because it kills off Madison. It's essentially a new show. They rebooted the show. Instead of canceling it, they're like, okay, let's bring over Morgan. Let's cross over Morgan, a popular character from the original show. Part of their overall plan to end the main series and then have shows, spin-offs with the favorite characters. That's always been their plan. Step 1 of that plan was Fear, with Morgan crossing over and eventually Dwight in season 5. And I like Morgan as a character, compelling character. The way he gets there is a bit rushed, especially with the season 8 finale right before it. It just felt very abrupt that all of a sudden he's now in Texas. But there's some good stuff there. They got a new character, John Dory, I really liked. And it has flashback structure, kind of annoying. And 2 timelines going on. I was kind of annoyed by it. But Madison's death at the end of the first half of the season was it was an important plot point, but it pissed off a lot of fans because she's probably the most popular character on Fear, and she was number 1 on the call sheet. So it was a big decision, and I kind of just assumed that she was going to be back soon. It's not until season 7 that she ends up coming back in a very contrived way, I might add. But basically, her character had already kind of died in this season. Even before she fake died, her character was fundamentally changed because she was a lot more ruthless before. And, we had the big reveal in season 3 about how she, as a child, murdered, I think, I don't know if it was her father or stepfather, somebody who was abusive. She murdered him in his sleep when she was like 3 years old or something crazy. And that they kind of forgot about all that and just made her like lovey-dovey and stuff. That being said, first half of the season pretty good, but they kill off Nick, which sucks. But apparently he wanted to do other things. But the way they killed him off, had this kid, and she's still hanging around. Oh, there's so much I hate about this show. But the second half of the season had one of the worst villains I've ever had on Walking Dead. Maybe being D tier is a bit too generous for this season. Now I think about it and say all that stuff out loud. But I like the first half of the season. It's pretty good. And it's a new show, but it has Morgan and new character that I like. So I got to give it the D tier. Now we're getting into the more competent stuff. I think C might be the most populated tier when we get everything out. Let's just kind of go in order of how I have it in my files over here. So Fear season 1, I always was a little bit underwhelmed by Fear. I know we look back on it fondly because it's definitely degraded in quality since this season. But I was a little bit disappointed because we were promised a show about the outbreak. And the outbreak is essentially over with by the second episode because they do a time skip to a military occupation storyline. And I like that storyline. I just wanted it later. I wanted to see more of the outbreak and things going on because that's what we were promised, and the setting of the show, it's an opportunity to do something that the original Walking Dead skipped over, so it's a big it's a big concept, but we're never going to get that outbreak show because this season kind of whiffed it, in my opinion. I like the characters. There's a lot to like in this, but I was very disappointed with the time skip because basically all we get to see of the outbreak is a riot outside of the hair salon or hairdresser place, the barbers, I suppose you could say. I don't know. I was disappointed by Fear Season 1. I understand, looking back on it, there's great stuff. I mean, Strand was introduced towards the end of the season. There's a lot to like there. I just, it's got to be C tier. And, when I say these things out loud, it makes me almost want to make it lower. But I think, you guys would freak out if I didn't say this part next. I think you're probably yelling at the screen. So season 7 and 8, to me, they're like a package deal. So we're going to bring both on the screen here. Why am I going to put both of these in the C tier? I think you guys already know. The big reason, when you think about it, it's really boils down to, this is not working out. We're going over here. Okay. It boils down to having too little story for 2 seasons. It boils down to, we're not going to increase the budget because less people are watching the show, I guess. Or no, it kind of almost peaked at this point. They didn't really have the budget to do an all-out war storyline for 32 episodes. So it's very stretched out. It's 1 season's worth of story stretched over 2 seasons. And there's a lot to like about it. Looking back on it, there's so many great scenes, so many great moments. And I love a lot of what they did with it. It just felt underwhelming to watch because they have to put in a bunch of what feels like filler storylines, and there's a lot of good stuff. I like how we get to see a little bit more inside the sanctuary than we did in the comics and whatnot, and getting Eugene over there and Daryl and stuff. And there's some good stuff there, but it's just like it's entirely too much. I just wanted action this season. Should have been shorter, more concise, more bloody. There's a lot of things that were a little bit disappointing with these 2 seasons here. So these firmly in the C tier. I think a lot of fans, of course, my bias is that I'm a Walking Dead fan, and I honestly think it was still more good than bad at the point that these seasons came out. So I was still defending the show. I was still watching the show. I was like, yeah, it's not there's some issues here, but I'm still enjoying the show. It's more good than bad. So I think C tier is appropriate. But you guys may disagree, and that's okay. That's why everybody can make their own tier list. You know what I'm saying? So next, we got to go for some other Fear seasons, I would think. Season 6, I think we're going with C. And this is because the first half of the season was so good. I was like, this is better than the main series right now. They had some really amazing episodes. They got the John Dory character I really liked. And they had a whole episode where he's like investigating a murder. And it was like a different genre for the Walking Dead, but it was done really well, and it was integrated in the plot line. There's some really great episodes in the first half of the season. It would be like easily a B or even possibly A tier if the quality was consistent, but it wasn't. And there's a sharp drop-off when they kill off John Dory in the mid-season premiere. It was originally supposed to be the mid-season finale, but pandemic happened, so they delayed it. But the way they killed him off was just like so ridiculous to me, because they took him from like the most happy-go-lucky, optimistic guy to all of a sudden he's suicidal, and there's no real transition other than like, oh, he's not like living with his wife at this moment, but it's not even like his wife was like breaking up with him. She just like wanted to work in this community. He doesn't want to be part of the community anymore. But they're still like married, and it's not like, she's not in love with him anymore or anything like that. It was not a justified transition. They take the happiest character, make him suicidal, and then kill him off at the end in, again, a very repetitive way. Pretty much the same way that Nick got killed off. And they had a great concept for the second half of the season that maybe should have been its whole own season, honestly. Maybe they tried to put in too much, and that's what was wrong with it. But the second half of the season, we're talking about a death cult. And this is how we get to the nuclear apocalypse, is this death cult that just, these things exist in real life. So it's interesting to see in the zombie apocalypse, and I love the concept, the character, Teddy, really great concept. But the execution was terrible, and the coincidences and just the logical ridiculous stuff, and zombies all of a sudden sneaking up on people that have been surviving for a very long time in the apocalypse, and all of a sudden they can sneak attack behind the bush. I mean, we didn't have the variants at this point, so that's not an excuse. It's just it was disappointing. So C, because I really like the first half, like that premiere episode with Morgan getting chased by the assassin, that was all so good. And they bring him, oh, I almost forgot, they bring his good twin brother back. It was like such a soap opera thing in season 7. It was so funny. So C tier, anything else in the C tier? I think I gotta put Fear season 2 in the C tier, because I did enjoy it, and I think I enjoyed this more than the first season, so maybe I don't know. I don't think it's good enough to be a B tier. The first half of it's pretty cool. We got a ship on the water, and it's just like family drama and stuff like that. But ship on the water, it turns out it's a limited concept because there's no zombies there. So, but of course, it's a good setting for the human drama, putting everybody in a contained space. But the second half of the season in Mexico, I liked better, and there's some good storylines there. And then I actually like the cliffhanger ending. I mean, a lot of times we do the cliffhanger ending where everybody splits up, and it's kind of annoying, but it felt like earned in this one. So, I like actually the second half of this, I might be confusing the seasons. No, you know what? I think I'm right. Fear season 3. I think we're done with the guys, how did I forget? Before we can move on to the B tier, we got another F tier contender that I somehow forgot about until just now, even though I reviewed this show this year. But you guys saw my reviews, I'm sure, of the show. It's absolutely awful, and it to me, it's like it has endless potential because it's just an anthology show. Every episode's completely different. They can do so many things. They can bring back old characters. They can go deeper into the lore of the communities we've seen before. Maybe even see the CRM. Maybe see let's have an episode about what the president is up to, or let's have an episode where you could do limitless options, like cool zombie movie concepts. Let's try it out. It was an opportunity, we'd introduced the variants already. Let's have an episode about variants or something like that. Maybe they don't want to spoil what's coming up in the future, but they have so much potential, to do really great, memorable stories. And we get a sci-fi episode, a time loop Groundhog's Day episode where they relive the same day over and over again. Really contrived concept. And they try to plug the logical hole by just being they're just delusional. It's a shared delusion. I'm going to need a little bit more than that. This is a grounded series. That's one of the points of it. Not that they can't venture out into other genres, but one of the fundamental things, the things they can't change, is that this show takes place in the real world. We can't start adding in these sci-fi concepts outside of the zombies. The zombies is the one thing they get. It's a human story. That's what The Walking Dead is. So I really, I don't like the time looping stuff. Weird dream sequence episodes. They've done a few good dream scenes in The Walking Dead. I like the Tyrese episode where he died. That was good. Michonne had a great dream scene. Other than that, pretty much all the dream scenes in Walking Dead suck. So they have that episode, and then the other big episode in terms of the weird dreamlike stuff is the final episode, which is a spooky ghost episode. It's so lame. And then they try to pass that off they just drank some water that was contaminated. Or it's a throwaway line of dialogue to explain everything. She gets cursed by a witch. That literally is what happens in this episode. And then they retcon Alpha so that the Whispers wasn't not her idea. in the last minute of the episode, she runs up on the old Alpha. And then, even though we had a scene with her and Beta where it really seemed like that was the origin point, now we're retconning that. And, oh, she just killed the last Alpha. And it makes her, like, less special in a way, less interesting. Maybe if we had a whole episode with the old Alpha and, her outsmarting the old Alpha and said it's... You could have done something with that, but it was, like, just tacked on to the end of another episode. And it would have been decent, an okay episode without that ending. But that ending made me hate it. We had a scientist guy. That episode was okay, watchable. This guy with a bunch of French people. That was another, like, weird, convenient amnesia episode, another dreamlike episode. And episode 1 was just a terrible, generic, fucking boring. There's only, like, 2 characters that talk in every episode, and it's just, like, it's just bad. It's bad writing, terrible writing, strong F tier contender, the worst Walking Dead season they ever did. So that's my opinion on that. Can't believe I forgot to cover that earlier. So we got 4 seasons in the F tier. Good to hear. So we're going to the B tier now, I think. So now we're getting to the point where we got to bring in more of the OG Walking Dead. But I think before we're going to finish off Fear by saying that I think this is the only Fear season I haven't covered yet, which is season 3, which is by far the best season. Has an amazing episode, like the character Daniel has a whole movie episode. It's that episode, one of the best Walking Dead episodes ever, like the show overall. And this was the original vision of the original showrunner, and there's a lot abandoned here that was good in the further seasons. So I really like this season. I don't think it's A tier or S tier good. I still like it, but I don't think it's as good as some of the best seasons of the original show. As good as it is, as much as I enjoyed it, and looking back on it, I look at it very positively. So I really like that season overall. So, what else is in the B tier? I think we're done with Fear, we're done with World Beyond, all the spinoffs. We now, we have 7 and 8 we did. So, okay, you know what? Here, let's start with the season that just happened. And I'm not sure where I'm going to put this. I don't think it's B tier. Part 1, let's break it up into 3 parts, the 3 part of the season. Part 1, one of the worst, seasons they ever did. And I said, I'm on record as saying that before. It would be dead last on my list if we were doing it by the halves of the seasons instead of by the full season. It would be dead last. Part 1, absolutely filler storyline. Some of the Commonwealth stuff was okay. There's a decent horror episode that was kind of cool, but mostly just it was really a slog to get through. And I was like, oh my god, the final season is gonna be ruined, and it's gonna ruin the legacy of the show. They steered the ship. Part 1, F tier. Or E tier, maybe. I don't know. Part 2, I give it solid D or C. It's better. I like the Commonwealth stuff. We're done with the storyline I didn't like, the Reapers, and it's better. Part 3 was really, really good. It's like a 7 or an 8 overall. Probably an A or B. I'd probably slide it into an A just because I really enjoyed it raised the quality of the show, so it felt better than it was. And just as a fan, wrapping everything up, I was relatively happy with it. I have mixed feelings on it overall, but you guys can see my other videos if you want to go into that. So where do I rank it? We get A for part 3, and what did I say? Part 2 was a C. And then part 3 was an F. So weight it all out. I think it might be C tier, guys. I think it might be C tier. Let me know what you guys think, if you guys disagree with any of my takes here. But this is just how I'm feeling in the moment. That's the thing with these ranking videos, is I'm bound to change my rankings in the future when I rewatch it or when I rethink things and notice new stuff, Everything's in flux, so this is just of the day that I'm doing it. So what else? Let's see. No more C tier seasons, I don't think. I gotta go season 10. You know what? Season 10 might be a C tier. because the bonus episodes were actually worse than than part one. The bonus episodes were an embarrassment to the series. I would have rather had nothing at all. I understand it was a desperate situation and people need to get back to work, so I can respect it. But it was very rushed, and all the pandemic stuff that the regulations they put on themselves, they couldn't even show up killing zombies, so they would just cut to a picture of a flower. They had a whole episode where Carol is cooking soup and trying to kill a rat, and Daryl was fixing his bike, and that was a whole episode. Awful episode. And the tone of the episode was, oh, we're having the same argument that we had like 4 episodes ago, where we decided at the end of that episode that we forgave each other, but now we're angry at each other again for the exact same thing, even though we already resolved it. For just so we could save some money and do a cheap episode, really bad. The Negan episode was the only good one, and this was a drop in quality from season 9. So you know what? I think season 10, because of the bonus episodes especially, has to go in the C tier. If it wasn't for the bonus episodes, it would probably be a B tier season. It's not bad. I did like it. It wasn't as good as season 9, but you know, there's some cool whisper action, and it was decent overall. I like the slasher episode with Beta going through Alexandria. That was cool. I like it. So yeah, that's C tier is definitely appropriate for that. I think now we go season 9. I think this was a kind of creative renaissance for the show after the low point of season 7 and 8. They came back with new creative energy. It's a bigger world now. There's different factions at play here. It's a more complex of a show. There's more moving parts. So there's a lot to appreciate. The Whisper storyline, awesome. The Heads on the Pike moment, very, very memorable. There's a lot of really great stuff. Rick's last episode, one of the best episodes of the series as well. I think they did a great job, as good as you can with the situation. You know, he's a human being. He needs to spend time with his kids, so you got to write him off the show somehow. I much prefer it to killing him off. And recasting is just a non-starter for this character with Andrew Lincoln. So I think that you know, they did a pretty good job with this season. But I think I have to put it in the B tier just because I think it's outshined by other seasons. So it's got to be in the B tier, although I appreciate this season getting the show back on track and bringing new energy to the show and new characters that I like. So season 9 is really good and I enjoy it. What else here? So we got seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to go. So I think we're just going to go in order. I think that's easier. Let's where does season 1 go? Is it even a question, guys? Is it even a question? Now, it's only 6 episodes. So you could judge it from that point and say it's not enough. I needed more. The other seasons are longer, therefore it gets downranked. I'm more of a quality over quantity guy. And the truth is, the first 2 episodes of the show, still 2 of the best episodes. Especially the pilot, absolutely amazing. Second episode, really good too. And there's a bit of a dip in the 3rd episode, but we're focusing on the drama, introducing characters. I like the 4th episode as kind of self-contained story. And then we had the CDC arc at the end, which was okay. You know, I could have done without. But I think just because of it starting it all and just how good the first episode is, I think that outweighs some of the lesser good, like B-rated episodes toward the end. I think this is an S-tier season because it started it all. And honestly, in terms of immersion, cinematography, atmosphere, and just the originality of it, and the fact that it's the first show of this type, and having a genre show that looked like this was like unheard of at the time for the most part. It has to go S tier. There's nowhere else it can go. Because of all those factors, just looking at it in a historical perspective, of all the seasons, if you only watch the first season, you know, I think you saw what you love with The Walking Dead, you know? So let's go to season 2 now. Now, I will say, when season 2 came out, I was a bit underwhelmed by it, just because the pacing is slower. But now I know a little bit more about filmmaking. Obviously they wanted more episodes and they didn't want to increase the budget that much. So we stayed on the farm. And after rewatching it, my opinion of it changed. I really like a lot of character moments here. And while there are some storylines that drag out a bit too long, it has some of the best storylines towards the end with the Shane storyline and that altercation at the end. And I mean, there's so many great episodes, like the Nebraska episode where they're in the bar and they get in the fight with those guys. So many memorable moments and the start of so many great characters. I mean, Carl getting shot. There's so much unforgettable stuff. So, the pacing, slowing it down a little bit. But I think a lot of that had to do with budgetary constraints and creative differences between AMC and the showrunner at the time. He was like thrust out towards the middle of the season. So it's actually amazing it turned out this good considering all of that. But I like the twist middle episode where Sophia is in the barn, and I predicted that because I caught up on the comics after seeing the first season. So I was very, very into the comic at this point. And I remember I didn't get to watch that episode, and I talked to somebody the next day in school. And I asked them, okay, was Sophia in the barn? And they're like, yeah. So, I love that they write the show for the comic fans to be able to like predict stuff, but they have surprises in there too. So, I don't know if this is as good to me as the first season, just the pacing of it, but so many great moments. It's going in the A tier. Season 3. Now, I've talked about this before, but as a comic fan, I was a bit disappointed because there's so many amazing storylines in this arc of the comic that weren't used. And there's a lot of things that happen. One of the biggest moments in this arc is when we find out, in the comic series, one of the big moments is when we find out that how everybody's infected. And there's this insane moment that happened. That revelation happened simultaneous to a really dramatic moment in general. So it's like two amazing things. Instead, we got the CDC arc, which I didn't, like as much. And so there's that missing from the prison arc. Tyrese is a different character. He's not like as cool as in the comics. The governor arc does not go anywhere as far or as extreme or as shocking as the comic series. They add a bit more complexity with the governor in the next season, but it felt to me like they were trying to split up the confrontation at the prison that happens, and they had it across like 2 different finales or 3 finales. They had 3 like mini fights. So there's a lot of mistakes here, but the first 5 episodes of season 3, incredible, absolutely incredible. And if you aren't a comic fan, you probably love this season, and there's a lot to love about it. I like the acting of the governor, but there's some annoying stuff too, like how Andrea died and even just her going over and hooking up with the governor and all that. Very frustrating. So there's a lot of annoying stuff in season 3, but there's a lot of great stuff too. But you know what? Just for me as a comic fan, overall, I think the season has to go in the B tier. Like the finale, do you guys remember when they were like, oh, so many people die in the finale, it's like 60 people. And then it turns out it's the governor killing his own people. Very disappointing. Very anticlimactic finale. And the big moments were like that and Andrea dying in a stupid way. So you got to put it in full context, I think. So that's where I'm going with season 4. You guys, your mileage may vary. Now here, season 4, I think it's one of the best seasons. I think they had a new showrunner, Scott Gimple. I know people have a lot of issues with him now with the show and stuff, and I understand a lot of criticism. There's a lot of valid criticism there. I think Gimple saved the show at season 4, and it brought new life to it, and there were new ideas that weren't in the comic that were so compelling. I mean, the zombies carrying a virus. Even just, having a time jump and they're growing things at the prison, and there's a lot of great storylines. And then of course we had the big confrontation. We have a bit more complexity to the governor. He feels like I forget exactly what happens, but he's separated from people that knew him, so he's has a new persona, and you're like, oh, maybe he might be a good guy after all. But no, he's still trying to come after the prison. And then I like the stuff where they're on the road after the prison, and there's some really brutal storylines that happen, and then it eventually leads to Terminus. And go back and rewatch season 4. I'm telling you, it's so much better than you remember. I absolutely love this season. Rewatching this season, I was like, wow, this is, in my opinion, an S tier season. You guys might not like that. It's fine. It's fine. We're going into season 5. And, guys, I got to say, for me, this is another S tier season. I love season 5. Starting off with the Terminus arc. And then we have all the stuff on the road. I think this is the season where Noah gets killed in a very brutal way. And then we get introduced to Alexandria, and I really like some of the new additions they did with that storyline, and the pacing of it I think was pretty good. So some people don't like, after Alexandria, they think the show slows down and gets boring there. I understand that. For me personally, that's not an issue. I like this season a lot. And you got to remember, like, we had Morgan coming back, and after so many seasons, it was so exciting to see. And some of those Morgan episodes, one-off episodes, were amazing. And then he's going to join the cast. It was so exciting. There's so much great stuff. Season 6. This is kind of where it starts to unravel a bit. And I think that this is what led into 7 and 8 not being as good. So a lot of one of the big issues is the gimmick ending. We had a cliffhanger where we don't know who Negan kills, and we're supposed to speculate on who it was. And then the next season premiere, it's just death and destruction. Now, to me, that just like takes the moment, and we're spreading it out for a whole mid-season. Between seasons, there's all this time, and we have all this time to think about it. To me, like, this was issue 100, and you're supposed to read that in one sitting. It's supposed to be this really intense, like, I didn't think it would go that far type of thing. But spreading it out that much, too much. And, this is kind of where, a lot of the criticism people have with the Gimple era is it started here, which is, like, everybody having epic speeches all the time and not sounding like people anymore, and it's a much louder show. That atmospheric stuff I said earlier is starting to fade away. So, there's all these aspects. I still think the storylines were really good. The writing, I really like it. The Alexandria arc and everything, and the finale and introducing the saviors. There's a lot of good stuff here. And, the brutal stuff with, taking out the satellite dish place and whatnot. But I think this is going to go in the B tier. Like, I really enjoyed the season. I think the peak of the show, for me personally, is like 4 through 6 in just my personal enjoyment. But with some of the issues that season 6 has, I think it's fair. I can put it on a different day. I might put it in the A tier. You know what? Let's do that, because I think we're done now. We did all the seasons, and I'm putting that in the A tier just to make myself feel better. So let me know what you guys think. What are your rankings? And I hope to hear from you guys down below. And with that, it's been your boy Shuggy, and this video is probably too long, but I'm not editing it, so you guys have to stay with it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And with that, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.